the Rat Crusade and welcome to today's video. And in today's video, I am going to be doing my first video in my Ultimate Rat Breeder's Guide for beginners. So in this video, I'm going to go over the physical features of rats for beginner rat owners so they have an idea of the kinds of physical features rats will have and what those kinds of types are, so you can keep an eye out them when trying to breed in your brand new rattery if you were starting a rattery, or if you just want to know the body types and the physical features. So let's get started. First thing I want to discuss in this video is going to be ear types, because ear types is what I feel is the most important thing. Okay, so the first ear type is going to be the standard rat ear type. It's called the top-eared. It's basically what you commonly see on rats is a dominant gene that usually appears on almost every rat, and it doesn't really make a difference except for the head, because depending on the rat's ears, they can have a different head shape. So usually with top ear rats, you'll see kind of a long kind of head and like a short little muzzle and thick. It's also a very thick muzzle also. Then there's also the Dumbo-eared rats, and the Dumbo-eared rats is the recessive gene for rat ear types. And basically these ears are a bit rounder than the top ears, and they're usually either bigger or smaller, and they can come in different colors depending on the rat's fur type or fur color. Now, the thing about Dumbo ears is, early in the video I said how ears can determine the rat's shape of its head. Well, with Dumbo-eared rats, it's a little different than top-eared rats. They don't have the same kind of head shape. Instead, Dumbo rats have a pushed-in muzzle that kind of pushes into their head, making their head a little rounded, and then their snout kind of lifts off from the head a little bit. So note that while you're breeding different ear types so you don't get confused between the dominant and the recessive gene. So now we're going to move on to the actual body and tail part of this. So the first one I want to go over is going to be the tail. This is also known as the mannix for this kind of rat. Basically, I know I shouldn't really talking about the tail because, well, the mannix doesn't have a tail. If you've ever heard the term mannix, it basically means tailless. It's in cats. I'm pretty sure it's in dogs as well, and it's in rats. And so basically these are tailless rats, and they're a little bit more clumsier than their cousins who actually have tails. So this is actually a recessive gene, so this doesn't happen very often in rats, but when it does look a little on the weird side, but people who don't like, having to stare at the rat's tail, I recommend getting a mannix if you don't want to look at that tail. So there's another one I want to talk about, and that's going to be the body part of this, and it's going to be the dwarf rat. Now the dwarf rat kind of looks like a baby rat, just in adult age. So basically the dwarf rat is 1/3 of the size of your average standard rat, and the only way you can tell this is if you put a standard size rat and a dwarf rat right next to each other, and you'll see that the smaller one is going to be the dwarf rat if you're comparing two adults together. So note this when you're looking at different tails and bodies of rats so that you know what you're giving the person before you go off and hand them a normal standard size rat instead of the dwarf rat. Now we're moving on to eye colors. Now this is probably going to be the most important part of this segment of the video. This is why I saved it for the last one, because it has the most information that you need to know about rat eye colors. So let's get started. So the first one I'm going to go over is going to be the black-eyed rats. Now the black-eyed rats are more dominant to have, and basically their eyes are completely black, and females do have the blue rings around them. Every eye color has blue rings, just to put that down in your notebook. And so basically the normal colors you'll see with black-eyed rats are like dark shades. For example, black, agouti, cinnamon, mink, all those dark colors ranging from black to cinnamon. And it will be in that range. And there's also the black-eyed dilute white, which is a recessive gene of the white dilutes for black eyes. So the next one I'm going to be talking about is the brown-eyed, which is kind of the slight opposite or the recessive part of the black-eyed kind of family here. And it's really, really rare, so I say it's even more recessive than recessive. And if it does appear in a rat, it will appear a little lighter. Just note that it's not the same thing as the black-eyed rats. They're just a little bit lighter, but they still have the same general colors in that range that you'll get with black-eyed rats. So now we're moving on to the ruby-eyed rats. Now the ruby-eyed rats are a little more complicated, and this is because, well, they come in different shades. So the normal shades you'll see for ruby-eyed rats are going to be the light ruby, which look like almost pink eyes, but they're a little bit darker than pink eyes that you'll learn later in this video. And these are recessive, so they're less common to happen inside rats, and they're not actually that common for ruby-eyed rats. Now there's also ruby red, which is one of the dominant genes that you'll get for ruby, and ruby red is basically also known as normal red. And the reason why it gets this name is because of how red it is. It's like pure red. It doesn't even look like a ruby color. And then the last shade I'll talk about is going to be the dark ruby. And the dark ruby is basically recessive, and this appears in rats as almost a black eye, but it has a little kind of red tint to it, and that's how you can tell if it's a ruby-eyed rat. Now, the normal eye colors, fur colors for ruby is normally ranging from buff to argente, and this means that it goes from a darker color right below cinnamon, usually to a medium color in that range. And there's also the ruby-eyed dilute white, which is part of the dilute family which is kind of dominant. So now you're going to move on to the pink-eyed rats, and the pink-eyed rats are probably the scariest looking rats because of their eye color. Now their eyes are literally pink, and it might seem surprising at first, but this is actually true, and some people don't actually like them because of their eye color. Now personally, I like them because, well, I like any rat just the same. And these rats are basically a really, really light color of ruby red or light ruby, and they are recessive. And the normal colors that you'll see, there's actually only 2 that generally come in the range, but you can also have a lot more. And usually it starts from a lighter medium color like champagne to a really light color like silver fawn, or even something like beige or something like fawn. And it usually goes in that range. And then there's also the pink-eyed white dilute, which is also known as the albino rat. So if you've ever heard the term albino, it basically means a pink-eyed critter that has white fur. So in case of rats, the pink-eyed dilute white is an albino rat. And I'll just show you a quick little glimpse of the dilute whites, just so you can see what I'm talking about when I say the word dilute white. And they basically come in 3 different kinds. I will get more into that stuff in a different video. In this video, we're just covering the basics, so there's not much I can really explain about that. So finally, we're going on to our last one, which is going to be the odd-eyed. And the odd-eyed rat is basically a rat that has 2 different eye colors, one on the left and one on the right. Now, they can come in any combination, so there's various different combinations. They can have a black and ruby, a black and light ruby, black and medium ruby, or black and dark ruby. It can have pink and ruby red. It can have ruby red and light ruby. It can have ruby red and dark ruby, whatever. You can get a rat that matches anything. Like if you have one parent who's a ruby red-eyed and the other one's a pink-eyed, and you end up getting a baby that is an odd-eyed, you're most likely going to see one side is going to be ruby red and one side is going to be pink-eyed. So that's how it kind of works there. So overall, those are the rat eye colors. Once again, thanks for watching everybody, and I hope you enjoyed this video and thought it was helpful for new rat breeders who are thinking about starting a rattery, or if you're just interested in seeing the body types of rats. So once again, please leave your comments and questions down below in the comments section, and please tell me if you have any essential questions for future videos so that I can inform people about your questions and you can take a look at the videos too. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and look in the comment section for more information or the description. And thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!